Welcome to this virtual public information open house for the US 278 at Old Mill Road improvement projects, which will provide safe travel around the new Stanton Springs North development. Project proposals that touch parts of Morgan, Newton, and Walton counties include roadway widening, a new frontage road construction, and a new interstate interchange. I'm Kyle Collins, your moderator for today's event. On behalf of Georgia DOT and the entire project team, thank you for joining us today. One of the big ways you can make your voice heard is by submitting comments about these transportation improvement projects, and we'll explain all the ways you can do that later in this session. Keep in mind that the design concept for the corridor is not yet final, so all the materials you see today are subject to change. It should be noted that Georgia DOT's projects are separate endeavors from the new development in the area and are intended to improve surrounding infrastructure for all users, including the local communities it serves. Let's begin. This is a 1.5-hour virtual open house. For everyone's benefit, we have a few ground rules to ensure we maximize your time and answer your questions accurately and thoughtfully. During today's session, you will be on mute. However, throughout the session, you can submit questions using the Microsoft Teams live Q&A feature. We urge you to keep your questions concise and specific to these projects. Also, please use appropriate language. After the presentation, we're going to read your questions for the project team to respond to. Keep in mind that we may group similar questions together. We will not repeat questions and answers until we have been through all questions. If we don't get to your question or the question involves a more detailed technical type response and we're able to provide to you today, do not worry. We will get back with you within 2 to 3 business days. Please be sure to include your contact information in the chat so that we can follow up with you if needed after this meeting. Also note that all comments submitted will be part of the official public record. Because this is a virtual open house, it's important that you're attached to a strong Wi-Fi or reliable wired connection. But if you get disconnected, you can always log back into the session. If there are any public officials joining us today, please send us your name and office in the chat for our records. Don't worry about memorizing these tips. We'll post them again later in the session. For your convenience, we have set up closed captioning in multiple languages. To turn it on, simply navigate to the bottom right of your screen to the closed caption icon. Click it to turn captions on and off. To change language, click the gear icon next to it and select captions/subtitles to choose a language. At this time, we're going to show a video presentation featuring our project manager, Kathy Ahmed. The video presentation will provide a general overview of the need and purpose and offer specifics about the US 278 and Old Mill Road improvement projects. Kathy?
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you to everyone for joining us today to learn more about the US 278 and Old Mill Road improvement projects. Let's get started. Before we get into the details of this package of projects, it is important to understand why projects like these are needed. As you can see from this slide, Georgia attracts many businesses and along with them, jobs. Our lifestyle and standard of living are just 2 reasons companies choose Georgia, and our skilled, educated workforce supports it. As Georgia continues to grow, GDOT is committed to responding when economic development opportunities are presented, or when there is planned growth that requires action to ensure safe and easy access for the traveling public. The US 278 and Old Mill Road improvement projects were developed with those considerations in mind. These improvements are in response to an economic development opportunity that will increase traffic through this corridor. This package of projects will provide easy and safe access to the new development. The main features of the projects include widening of US 278 and Old Mill Road, constructing the new frontage road, and constructing a new interchange at I-20 and Old Mill Road. At this stage, we are meeting with stakeholders, hosting a virtual public information open house, and accepting public comments until June 30th, conducting environmental work, and drafting initial design concepts. Project concepts have been developed, and displays like the one you see on your screen are available in the virtual meeting room for your review. Please take a moment to visit the web address you see on your screen to tour the rooms and view the displays for these projects. After reviewing this information, please feel free to ask questions about these displays during the meeting's live Q&A portion. This slide shows the proposed typical sections for the 3 projects. I'll pause for a moment so you can take a closer look. These projects offer several benefits to the corridor, including providing safe and direct access to major economic development in the area, mitigating traffic congestion, and creating a new multi-use path within the vicinity of the projects. There are multiple private developments that are either currently under construction or have construction planned for the near future. These developments provide thousands of jobs for the region and will be dependent on optimal access for motorists. In addition, these projects are designed to relieve traffic congestion based on the future traffic volumes. The projects will also increase safety for motorists traveling near and through the area. In addition, the design-build method being used to develop the projects will increase greater delivery efficiencies and accelerated schedules. All three projects are going through the environmental process and a public comment period. They're not, however, all on the same timeline for completion. PI 00-17219 and 00-18363 will enter design build selection in Q3 of 2022 with substantial completion planned for 2024. PI 00-18361 is not planned to go to design build until a year later with substantial completion not planned until 2025. The information and dates are subject to change. Georgia DOT is responsible for reviewing projects and filing appropriate documentation to ensure that all projects comply with applicable federal and state laws and regulations. Because of the Old Mill Road Interchange project, 00-18361 is federally funded through the FHWA, the team will follow the National Environmental Policy Act, also called the NEPA process. The other two projects, 00-17219 and 00-18363, will follow the Georgia Environmental Policy Act, also called GEPA, environmental process. The environmental and design teams and other subject matter experts meet extensively during the design phase of a project to coordinate the best design options to avoid, minimize, or mitigate impacts to the identified resources. We also conduct public meetings like the one today to allow the public to provide comments on the projects. And that brings us to today for this virtual public meeting and virtual public information open house. On the project website, we encourage you to visit the virtual meeting room platform. There you will be able to view project information on the environmental process, current concept layouts, anticipated right-of-way needs, noise barrier information, as well as other details. Once you have viewed the materials, you will also have the opportunity to provide comments on the projects. Again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Now we'll go over how to navigate the interactive public information open house virtual meeting room platform.
Thank you, Kathy. As you can see, there's a lot of material for public review and comment. To accommodate this, Georgia DOT has dedicated a website to showcase the concept design, layouts, and other details for your consumption. The project team wants to ensure visitors have the best user experience, so let's take a quick tour of the project website. First, you will need to visit the Georgia DOT project website for these three improvement projects. You can easily Google US 278 at Old Mill Road. Click on the first thing that comes up and it'll take you directly to this page. Once on the website, under the public participation section, click to enter the virtual meeting room to explore stations that contain project informational displays, videos, and design concepts that we would typically share at an in-person style meeting. Once you enter the virtual meeting room, you will enter the welcome station and be greeted by our statewide spokesperson, Natalie Dale with Georgia DOT. Natalie provides a great overview of the virtual meeting room platform and how best to navigate the space. You might consider starting there. The information presented includes the proposed project design concepts, typical sections, informational materials on environmental impacts such as noise and air, and potential property acquisitions, as well as methods for submitting comments. The last station of the virtual meeting room provides methods for submitting comments, which is basically why we're here today, to get your comments and get your feedback. You can, however, send an email, leave a voicemail, or mail in a comment about one or all of the projects listed via the method shown here within the virtual meeting room. To request materials in accessible formats for people with disabilities, contact the district planning and programming engineer for District 2 in East Central Georgia, which is Ellen Wright. That number is 478-553-3407. Email is the letter E, Wright, WRIGHT, @dot.ga.gov. The department encourages comment on any aspect of these projects. Robust feedback ensures that decisions are made in consideration of and to the benefit of public needs and preferences. This is the message for those of you who may have joined a few minutes after the starting time at 5. Just want to review a few ground rules to ensure that we maximize your time and answer your questions accurately and thoughtfully. During this session, you're going to be on mute to reduce the risk of background noise. However, you can submit questions using the Microsoft Teams live Q&A feature. We urge you to keep your questions concise and specific to this project. Also, please use appropriate language. Also note that we may group similar questions together. If we don't get to your question or involves a more technical, detailed type response, don't worry, we'll make sure to follow up with you using the contact information you provided. But keep in mind that if you use the option to submit a question anonymously and we don't get to your question during this session, we won't have a means to get back with you afterwards. So very important, if you're submitting questions today, please provide your name and contact information to us. Please note that all comments submitted will be part of the official public record, Because this is a virtual public meeting, it's important that you're tethered to a strong Wi-Fi or reliable wired connection. But if you get disconnected, you can always log back into the session. All right, it's time for the Q&A. So let me get this up here and see what we have published so far. Get this to load. And everyone, I'm going to ask Kathy Ahmed, who's the project manager you heard from earlier on the video showcased on the virtual platform, to kind of usher me through answering these questions. So looks like we do have a few early from Miss Julie Jenkins, interested citizen there in the area, Kathy. All right, here, let's see. First one, will Old Mill be widened to Davis Academy? So will Old Mill be widened to Davis Academy? Follow up, will there be any noise or visual abatement to protect the farmland on the east side of Old Mill? So kind of a two-pronged question, Kathy, as far as the project scope on Old Mill and also any noise or visual abatement measures.
Thank you for your question, Julie. No, the Old Mill to Davis Academy will not be, Academy Road will not be widened. And there are noise studies are underway. So just to answer your question, Old Mill will not be widened to Davis Academy Road. And there's no visual abatement planned as well. Thank you.
Can y'all see me? Okay, just make sure here. Okay, so next question. Ms. Jenkins has an additional question for us. There is a spring-fed pond on the 40 acres where frontage road is to go, so it appears. What will happen to that lovely little pond? Do not pave over, water is important. So Kathy, how would we like to answer that question from Ms. Jenkins?
Thank you for your question, Julie, again. It doesn't look like the pond would be impacted by the frontage road project, but it may be impacted by the Old Mill Interchange project. I'll let our subject matter expert, Amber Phillips, elaborate more on this. Amber?
Thank you. Yes, that's a good question. Currently, as you mentioned, we're not expecting impacts on the frontage road. There may be impacts by the Old Mill project. That one, the schedule is a little further out. So as we go through the environmental process, of course, we'll make sure that we're looking at trying to avoid and minimize and mitigate and follow all federal, state, and local laws as we move forward with that. And again, as I mentioned, we do not yet know precisely how Old Mill project would impact that area, but it's likely we would impact it in some way. Thank you very much for the question.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Amber. Let's see what else we have. Ms. Jenkins has an additional question for us. Appreciate all the activity so far. What is a complete street and a multi-use path as stated on the plan? So Kathy, this sounds like this may be in reference to the proposal on the frontage road.
Yes, thank you for your question, Julie. I'd like to answer. Complete streets are streets designed and operated to enable safe and support mobility for all users. The multi-use path of the frontage road will provide access for cyclists and pedestrians.
Thanks for that clarification there, Kathy. Ms. Julie, again, we got a fourth question from her. What will happen at I-20 and Old Mill as far as the plan for it to enter Old Mill and the frontage road? What happens to the homes close to the new intersection that's being built for a private company? Not a good thing. So a few layers to unpack there just related to the future look of the Old Mill proposal, Kathy.
Okay. Thank you again, Julie, for your question. I'd like to hand this over to Jonathan Langley.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here with us. For the ability to answer this question, I'm going to ask if we can pull up a slide that is going to be in the area of Old Mill Road and I-20. And while that's being pulled up, I'll talk about that area a little bit. So in this area, if you're not familiar with it, or if you haven't had a chance to look at our layouts yet, and as you heard, you can go to do that on the website that was shared a moment ago. Okay, we're on the screen now. So if you can go to the, not this slide, but the one that says Old Mill Road up at the top. Thank you very much. So what you see here, and if we can zoom into the area for the interchange just a little bit, and we'll get a closer view of what those lanes look like. You will see that the Old Mill Road interchange that is proposed in these layouts is offset just slightly to the west of where the existing Old Mill Road bridge is. And so this interchange, it has ramps on each side. It is a diamond shaped interchange, and sometimes we say that it's a diamond shape just because it's similar to a diamond. And so you have exit ramps and entrance ramps on each side. And then instead of your standard type of intersection that you would see with maybe a stop sign or traffic signals, in this case, there is a roundabout at the top of each of those ramps. So there's two roundabouts, one at either side of the Old Mill Bridge. And that's a proven solution that has been used by Georgia DOT and other places throughout the state. So the first part of this question is what will happen at I-20 and Old Mill as far as the plan for it to enter Old Mill and the frontage road. So we've taken a look here a little bit at the interchange itself. And I want to take a moment and just imagine if we were a vehicle and we were traveling north along this road. So from the bottom of the screen towards the top of the screen. And what would it be like as you're approaching the new frontage road? So as you imagine this with me, we're starting at the bottom of the screen and you have Old Mill Road coming off on this new location, and you see the cursor, if you can see that on the screen. And you approach the first roundabout. In this case, you would enter the roundabout, move around the roundabout and exit towards the bridge. The orange shape that you see there is the brand new bridge that's offset further to the west than the existing Old Mill Bridge. You would continue across that bridge, and at that point you would enter a second roundabout. As you go through the second roundabout, you would then exit towards the top side of the page. And you see we're moving towards what, there's a label here that says C Inset A. So what that is that's a line that shows we're going to go to another page to look at the continued design. So if we can now go to the frontage road, the screen that shows the frontage road, we'll see how that ties in. Yes, exactly. So we're going to zoom in towards the intersection here. And right where the cursor is, there's a blue shape. And that blue shape is where the project ties in that we were just looking at from the interchange. So if we're traveling in that imaginary vehicle, we're coming up through this route and we're coming to a brand new intersection at the frontage road. And you see this is a four-way intersection. And if you were to continue north along Old Mill Road, you would just take a simple right off of the Old Mill Interchange connection onto the frontage road, which then just continues north onto the existing Old Mill Road that you're familiar with. And I think we may talk a little bit about what happens a little further north with some of the other questions that are coming. So we'll address that here in a few minutes. But the second part of this question is what happens to the homes that are close to the new interchange that is being built. And so in this case, we would want to think about the different kinds of impacts that would be created by putting this interchange and this new connection in this area. And so to help answer this question, I'd like to hand this off to Phil Copeland, who is our right-of-way expert on the call here today. He is a great resource. If you do have other right-of-way based type questions, please feel free to enter those into the chat so we can answer those as well. But I'm going to hand this over to Phil Copeland right now. And Phil, if you can just tell us a little bit about what that process is like for anybody living in this area that may potentially be impacted by the interchange or the frontage road.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, it's always a topic at most of these meetings about what happens if my property is needed for this project. And to assist you with that, at the virtual meeting room, there is a tab over on the right-hand side that is called Property Acquisition. So I would encourage you, as you visit the virtual room, to click on the Property Acquisition tab, and you'll find two resources on that particular page. One will be a right-of-way informational brochure that explains what happens if my property is needed for a transportation facility. It will walk you through not only the property inspection process, it'll walk you through the property appraisal process, the negotiations for the purchase of the property. And in the event that one of the acquisitions involves a relocation, such as one of these residential structures that is mentioned here, there is also a relocation program that is afforded any of the occupants of a residential displacee that may be displaced by the project. That includes not only compensation for the property purchased, but it also includes compensation to assist with the actual moving from that property into a replacement property. Also, within that page on the virtual meeting room, there is a right-of-way acquisition process layout that kind of talks about the 5 steps that is involved in a typical right-of-way acquisition from, again, as I mentioned before, the pre-acquisition activities, the appraisal of the property, the negotiation and purchase of the property, and in the event of a relocation, the relocation process. As we've mentioned earlier, we don't know exactly the property impacts yet, so we don't know for certain whether the residential structures mentioned here will be displaced or not, but in the event that they are, we will follow the processes that are outlined in the brochure and the processes that I briefly described there. Thank you for your question.
Thanks for that, Phil and Jonathan, clarifying things on Old Mill for us. So we have another question in the chat. Why does the map look like the Rivien or GDOT land goes to the east of Old Mill as it gets close to Davis Academy? Kathy, how would we like to clarify that for Ms. Jenkins?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Julie. Again, I'd like to hand this over to Jonathan Langley. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. This is a great question to help us continue looking more towards the north of where we left our description just a moment ago with that little bit of an imaginary drive. So if we can turn the screen back on to the map that we were looking at a moment ago, we'll take a look at what happens to the north of the area where we were just a moment ago. Okay, so you should be seeing this screen once again, and we left off at the intersection, maybe a right turn from Old Mill Road, from the new interchange onto the frontage road, which continues north on Old Mill. And the question here, it says, why does the map look like Rivien or GDOT land goes to the east of Old Mill Road as it gets close to Davis Academy? And so I do want to start by discussing what we are seeing on this map that's on the screen here. This is a map that was developed on behalf of Georgia DOT. And when we look at this map, I want to point out how to read this map and what we do show on the map in this location. So when we're looking at the map, you see the dark shapes in the middle that look like a roadway. And then on top of that, there are some lines. And we can even, if we want to, we can maybe zoom in a click or so towards this so we can start to see the lines of the lanes. And so that dark gray, or the maybe it looks black on your screen, that color is where the new proposed roadway would be proposed. And in that situation, there's a number of lanes. And to understand how many lanes there are in each location along this dark colored roadway, you see that there are little circles that have a number in them. And depending on the size of your screen, that might be hard to see. Near the intersection, those circles have a little 2 inside of them. And that means that there are 2 lanes going in the direction of that arrow. As we move further towards the top right of the screen, and you get, this is going north, you see that those little circles have a 1 inside of them. And so that means that now we've gone from 2 lanes down to 1 lane in each direction. And the roadway construction is shown to be completed right there at the edge of that dark colored shape. Now, just to give you some context as to where we are, if we were to move the screen up towards the top and right a little bit more, you would start to see Davis Academy Road coming in just off the top of the page here. And so you can see there's a significant distance between where the construction is proposed to be completed and where Davis Academy Road is. So there is no additional construction proposed between the edge of that line all the way up to Davis Academy Road. Just to the top of where you see that black colored shape, you may see a red line, and it looks like it has some little jagged shapes in there where it goes in and out. That red line is our best understanding of where there may be the need to purchase required right-of-way in this area. And so that just means that the Department of Transportation would be using the land within that shape to help construct the elements of the road. Maybe there are slopes, basically dirt, that has to be built up to help shape up the side of the road. Maybe there are things like drainage features that need to happen within that area to be sure that the water is draining to the right locations and being treated responsibly. So when we look at this, what you see is that red line that shows where any right-of-way is required. That red line is all to the left or to the west of Old Mill Road. And on this plot, what we're seeing here is that there is no red line. There is no additional required right-of-way that is currently being shown to the east of Old Mill Road. And so to go back to the question that was asked here, why does the map look like Rivien or GDOT land goes to the east of Old Mill as it gets close to Davis Academy? I hope that we've shown you that this current layout and the map that Georgia DOT has presented is not actually showing any kind of work, any kind of construction or required right-of-way to the east of Old Mill Road. If there are any clarifications or further questions that you want to ask about that, if I didn't fully answer your question, please feel free to write a follow-up into the chat and we can come back to that. But hopefully this helps to clarify where there is construction proposed in this area and where there is no construction to the east of Old Mill Road. That was a good question. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to clarify that.
I appreciate that, Jonathan. Let's see, we got an additional question in here. Are y'all going to follow international dark sky lighting standards to avoid ruining the night sky and harming night flying animals? So this is a potential lighting question for the area. Kathy, how would we like to clarify this one for this citizen?
Thank you for that question. I'd like to hand this over to Amber Phillips to elaborate a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, currently we don't have a lot, or we're just considering general lighting on this project. However, as part of this public involvement process, We welcome all comments and suggestions for consideration so we can take further looks and consideration of any types of mitigation that you would like us to look at during the process. Thank you so much for the question.
Thanks for that clarification, Amber. Okay, got another one coming in from Julie Jenkins here. What happens when the new entrance and exits meet existing Old Mill Road? So again, that's what happens when the new entrance and exits meet existing Old Mill Road. Kathy.
Thank you for that question, Julie. I'd like to hand this over to Jonathan Langley. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. So we're going to go right back to the screen that we were looking at a moment ago that shows our layout. I personally find it helps to look at something when we're describing these things. That way we're on the same page, literally. So if we look at, it's roughly in the center of the screen, the new intersection at this location. This question was asking about what's happening at the new entrance and exit where that meets Old Mill Road. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, I think we're asking a question about the intersection here at the frontage road and where the new Old Mill Road interchange is intersecting with that frontage road here. So what you see is an intersection. It's larger than the intersections that are on either side of it. And this intersection will be a four-way where a traffic signal is located. And as you come to this, there would be that traffic signal. If you're coming from Old Mill Road, you could continue north through the intersection, and that would take you into the new development that's occurring in that area. And then, of course, the frontage road is going roughly from west to east, east to west in that area. And so that's providing, if you were to take a left and head towards the left side of the page, that's taking you towards the 278 route. And I think we'll have an opportunity to maybe do a little bit of a walkthrough of the full frontage road here in a few minutes. But I just want to spend some time looking at the intersection there and explaining that there will be turn lanes. Depending on which direction you're coming from, there will be left turn lanes so that as you approach that light, you have somewhere to stop and wait to turn left. And I know it may be a little challenging to see where those lanes are just because of how far we can zoom in here. So I encourage you to, if you have the chance, to pull up the same layout, which is available on our website. You can go and zoom into that. You can download that and look at it more closely, and that will help you to see what will be happening at this intersection and the traffic signal there. Now, before we complete this answer, just in case this is not the location that you were asking about, please feel free to follow up with some clarification if there was something different that you were hoping that we would answer. But that's a little bit more about the intersection at Old Mill and the frontage road. Thank you for your question.
Perfect. Thanks, Jonathan. All right, we have a question from Jennifer coming in. Kathy, it appears that the rest area traffic will now be diverted to the new traffic circle south of the new interchange on Old Mill Road. This will bring even more unnecessary traffic to this area. Were there other options explored before deciding on this design? And is it possible to redesign this aspect of the interchange? So that's pretty much getting back to the Old Mill concept, I believe, and how traffic is going to interact coming from the rest area.
Yes. Thank you for that question. I'd like to hand this over to Ty Dennings. Thank you.
Looks like we may be having some technical difficulties with Ty's connection, but I can answer that question for you, Kathy.
I've got it if you want to hear.
Oh, I think he's back. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. All right. So yeah, so we're talking about, could we switch back to the Old Mill interchange again? We're talking about the rest area. Yeah, so the question is, why is the rest area traffic exiting onto that ramp and then going through the proposed roundabout? And will this not cause a larger amount of congestion? And the other question was, let me see here, were other alternatives considered? Were other options explored before deciding on this design? So I'm going to try to address these all individually here. So yes, we did explore several different designs. Actually, I think we explored something like 9 different alternatives, different configurations, and all of these designs had resulted in different impacts, different geometries, different safety considerations, different cost. And so this design that we found really was one of the better balances between the cost of still accommodating this rest area, providing safe travels for the rest area folks that are trying to get back on. We didn't want everybody mixing, trying to cross over each other for people that were getting off versus people that were trying to get on. So, and it also was much cheaper. We looked at some other options that were just frankly too expensive. So we did study several different options, and this is the one that we eventually decided upon. Let's see, so now, is it possible to redesign this aspect of the interchange? So we will continually be, as it's been stated, we're still very early in this process. This is generally the agreed upon design configuration, but that's not to say that we will not be making modifications to it. I can't say that we would completely redesign it, but it will definitely continue to be looked at. And then the third part of that is it appears that the traffic will be brought through the old mill across, south of the new interchange onto Old Mill Road. This will bring even more unnecessary traffic to this area. So it is not the intent of the traffic, and I don't know if somebody can point to the screen here. So that rest area traffic, when they leave, they'll be getting off on I-20 eastbound, they'll stop, take their break, and then when they want to get back on, they will enter onto this ramp that then merges with the off-ramp to the Old Mill interchange. They will continue up that ramp, yield at the roundabout to any traffic, and then continue across the roundabout east and down to the eastbound on-ramp. And I think my mic or my camera has frozen up, but I'll continue talking here. So the intent is not for them to be traveling north or south on Old Mill. Really, we're just trying to give them safe passage via an alternate route across and over to I-20 eastbound. Thanks for the question, and if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know.
I appreciate that clarification, Ty. And like you said, Jennifer, going through almost 9 alternatives considered as far as the ramp traffic and coming back into 20 East with the Old Mill interchange. A lot of efforts have gone into presenting what you see today, obviously with safety being first and foremost. So, all righty, let's see what else we got here. So like kind of an additional question, Kathy, just about that rest area traffic. So will the I-20 rest area traffic be directed to the Old Mill Road interchange? If so, can this be changed if this will add additional congestion instead of helping? And this was from Daniel. So I think Ty kind of addressed some of this earlier. We can go back and re-clarify. But yes, the traffic would be coming off. So if you're at the rest area, your intent is departing to head further down I-20 East, it's actually going to send you through that new interchange, which will be a roundabout control that you would safely pass through to then carry on about your way. But Kathy, any additional clarification we'd want to add there?
No, Kyle, I think you explained it well. I think that takes care of the question.
Thank you. Let's see here. Getting some more questions today, so we really appreciate that. Thank you all for attending. So we have one from Blake. This next up here, Kathy. What is the need for this exit when you show the employee entrance off the 101 exit? What is the current traffic and future traffic numbers used to justify this? Why would we force all the trucks at the rest area to exit off 103 onto into Morgan County? The same county only receiving 200,000 in pilot payments per year. Who will maintain the roundabout? I am the Republican nominee for Morgan County District 2, the same district this project is located, and that's looks like Blake McCormack. So several prong question there. Kathy, how do we want to unpack each one?
Okay. Thank you for your question. I'd like to hand this over to Yap to elaborate a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. I can tell that the existing and the future year traffic demands for this area were thoroughly studied by the GDOT team. As the result of that analysis, it was determined that the improvements would be needed at US 278, as we showed, and also that an additional access point would be needed at Old Mill Road. It is anticipated that the traffic patterns at the US 278 will sort of remain the same, but will increase due to general growth. And then as a result of the multiple new developments in the area, which include also the Stanton Springs North development, a new access point is warranted. Therefore, it is anticipated that traffic traveling to the new developments will likely use to the proposed Old Mill Road interchange. And especially for truck traffic, this new interchange is available for and has a direct connection to the new development. Additional to this, providing a new access and additional capacity helps to keep any new increased traffic off of the existing local roads and back roads in this area, and providing them a new dedicated route to all the new developments in this area. Additional, the question about maintenance, I think that can be discussed maybe better by Jonathan Langley. So I would like to provide Jonathan Langley the chance to answer that question.
Absolutely. So in order to talk about maintenance, I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit from just the roundabouts and talk about maintenance as a whole. The maintenance of a road is not necessarily covered by just one individual or one organization. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The routes that are owned by Georgia DOT, such as the US 278 route, and I know we haven't talked a whole lot about that side of it. I think we'll have the opportunity to do that throughout the conversation here today. Any of those locations that are owned by Georgia DOT will be maintained by Georgia DOT. Now, if we talk about a location, say, for example, like the frontage road, the frontage road in and of itself, it is being constructed by Georgia DOT, but may then become a local road once the construction is complete. And so in the case where a road that is constructed by Georgia DOT then becomes a local owned, local operated road, then they would be responsible for the maintenance of that. Now, above and beyond that, there are other things, components within that right-of-way that may be maintained by other organizations. If you think about something like lighting, for example, lighting for something like a roundabout is oftentimes maintained by the local municipality, wherever that location is. And so I know that that's a more detailed explanation maybe than what you were trying to get to by asking that question. But hopefully that gets towards answering your question. And if you do have follow-up questions, please feel free to clarify. I think we have had a couple different people who have asked a similar type of question there. So thank you for your question.
Thanks for that, Yop and Jonathan. And listeners, I apologize if y'all hear a little rain. I'm actually getting one of these thunder showers because it's so hot right now. So hopefully that's not bothering everybody. All right, next question. It appears that this may be a repeat. We can go back to it. It appears the rest area traffic will now be diverted to the new traffic circle south of the new interchange on Old Mill Road. This will bring even more unnecessary traffic to this area. Were there other options explored? before deciding on this design? Is it possible to redesign this aspect of the interchange? I'll try to address that a little bit, Kathy, if you want to clarify as well. Yes, the traffic will be diverted from that rest area off I-20 East, going through what will be the new Old Mill Road interchange with a roundabout control. You would safely navigate through that area and continue on your way to the new ramp to get back on I-20 East. It sounds like there were 8 or 9 alternatives considered just to get to this point of what you see today with the concept that we've been presenting since June 1. As far as the possibility to redesign, that's why we're having the series of meetings and getting your comments and feedback so we can take that into consideration to build the best project possible. So, Kathy, anything you want to add there?
No, thanks, Kyle. I think you did well in explaining that. Thank you.
All righty. Another one from Ms. Jenkins here, Kathy. So not frontage, but south side of the new entrance from I-20. Sorry, hard to describe. So I think that was just more of a comment, maybe related to a previous question that she had published. So not sure if we need to go into that one or not. And Julie, please submit another one if there's something else we need to clarify there. All right, we have another question from Daniel in Rutledge here. Kathy, sounds like he's on Old Mill Road. On the interchange with the rest area, what does the traffic study show for the next 10 to 20 years for congestion? This interchange will have more trucks to Rivien's inbound operation, with a question mark on there. So he's assuming that a lot more trucks will be coming through this area. So how would we like to answer that traffic question there, Kathy?
Thank you for your question. I'd like to hand this over to Jap.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, so the new Old Mill Road interchange, it's a new interchange and will be used by a lot of trucks towards the Rivien plant or the North Springs plant. They have a direct connection to that plant using this new interchange, and that will result in lower truck volumes in the other areas in the study area. We have analyzed the traffic volumes for over 20 years, and they will be available when the IGR is published or when the traffic volumes can be published. Please leave a message somewhere on the internet site requesting these volumes. We can send you a link to the publication, or we can send the published IGR. That is showing all the traffic analysis being done in this area and hold all traffic volumes at all the road segments and intersections. If you look at the specific exit, we have analyzed that the single lane exit from the I-20 eastbound can hold all the traffic that is expected to the new interchange. Together with the ramp from the rest area, we have a dual lane going to that roundabout, and we have analyzed that the roundabouts at this new interchange can hold traffic so that the travel times, backing up of traffic is not expected to be a problem. So the capacity of the new interchange can hold all the trucks, all the normal traffic that will use the new interchange going to the new plant. Thank you for the question.
Thanks for that clarification, Jaap, about the traffic and what's coming in the next 10 to 20 years. Next question. In the description of why an interchange at Old Mill would be correct, as explained in your online handouts, it was said that the Old Mill Road at present doesn't reach US 278. Of course it does, and actually goes north to Hard Labor Park. So Kathy, how would we want to kind of clarify that related to Old Mill and 278's potential connection?
Thank you for your question. The improvements to Old Mill Road do not extend to US 278. They are limited to the interchange and up to the new frontage road and slightly beyond to tie back to the existing roadway. I will let Jonathan Langley elaborate a little bit more on this. Thank you.
Kathy, you're absolutely right. And I know we've looked at some of the layouts here, and if we want to, we can put those back up on the screen. But I think the question here is asking about Old Mill Road and how far north on Old Mill Road will these improvements be continued. And as we were looking at in some of the layouts a few moments ago, and we can flip to this slide where the frontage road ties into Old Mill Road. As we look at this area, we see that the improvements along Old Mill Road do not go any farther north than this roadway shape, which is shown in kind of the black color here. So where Old Mill Road, the existing Old Mill Road, ties into US 278 is much further to the north. If you were to continue beyond this project, you would first, continue a ways past Davis Academy and then continue on to US 278. And so for the sake of this project, all construction to the north on this side for Old Mill Road is ending at this location that you see on the screen, which is well below or well south of Davis Academy. It does not extend all the way to 278. Now, just in case, to cover our bases, if part of the question was about accessing US 278 from Old Mill Road, of course, there is a new additional way to access US 278. And so if you were at the frontage, if you were at Old Mill Road and you were to say exit I-20 at this new interchange and you wanted to go to US 278, you could go to the frontage road, take a left and head west, which would then take you to a new intersection at US 278. And so that is one of the operational benefits of having this new frontage road here. It provides a new connection to US 278 that is parallel to I-20, but not to the north. It's just, as it's shown on the screen here, parallel to I-20 as you approach 278. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for that clarification, Jonathan. Looks like we have another from Daniel on Old Mill Road. Semi trucks routinely stop on the ACL ramp every night. How are you going to mitigate that with the overflow of this rest area? Who is going to enforce the laws here? Kathy, how we like to address potential semi trucks and parking related to the ramp?
Thank you for that question. I'd like to hand that over to Jonathan Langley.
All right. Well, certainly understand why this is an important question. The question is talking about semi-trucks in the area and talking about how semi-trucks are routinely stopping on the acceleration ramp each night. And how are you going to mitigate that overflow for the rest area? So it's not unusual for these commercial vehicles to want to use the rest area, just like passenger vehicles have access to this area as well. And so they may pull off there, they may stop in that rest area for a time and then continue on their way. And so that is part of just being able to use that interstate system. We talked a little bit earlier about how vehicles, whether they be commercial vehicles or passenger vehicles, cars and trucks, how they are going to access this rest area. And the access into the rest area is not changing. And the access out of the rest area in its new configuration, we talked about that, how those ramps will come together and then come through that southern roundabout and back over onto I-20. So that talks a little bit about what that access is like. Of course, those commercial vehicles will have access to be able to stop at the rest area, and there are parking spaces there for them. And then the second part of this question is who's going to enforce the laws here? And just a very straightforward answer of that is going to be the local law enforcement for those jurisdictions. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks, Jonathan. And thanks again, Daniel, for that additional question. And this is another one from Mr. Blake here. I think he may be referencing some of the IJR, which is the interchange justification report and some of the traffic projections that Yop was talking about earlier. Are these studies available for public record? So Kathy, we may want to kick this to Yop and or Jonathan just to clarify the traffic data and when that may be available for folks.
Yes, I'm assuming that they're talking about the traffic studies as well. I would hand this over to Yap as well.
Thank you for the question. I know that we've worked on a lot of our of the traffic studies, and I know that the interchange justification report that is submitted, and if we have the ability to publish it, we will do. I am not sure when it will be published or when traffic studies will be published. We have to come back to you on that later. So we, with this question, I would likely address that to a later answer to you guys. Thank you.
Hopefully that clarification at least gave you an idea there, Blake, so thank you. All right, we got some Ms. Jenkins again, Ms. Julie. My question really asks if the entrance and exits that meet the existing Old Mill Road will go over Old Mill. So kind of a two-prong there. So my question asks if the entrance and exits that meet the existing Old Mill will go over Old Mill. So you think we can maybe wade through that, Kathy?
Yes, thank you for your question, Julie. I'll let Jonathan Langley handle this one. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll go ahead and put the slide back up on the screen so we can talk about it. And I do understand the question now, so thank you for helping to clarify for us. As we zoom in on the area towards the interchange, I believe what you're saying now is that there are ramps on the east side or the right side of this interchange that are crossing over where those existing roadways are for Old Mill Road. And there's one on each side of I-20. And so those ramps are coming through where that existing roadway would be. And I believe that that question is about where will those ramps be in proximity to the existing roadway. So I want to use this as an opportunity not only to just answer that question, but maybe to elaborate on what is happening with the construction of the new bridge versus the existing bridge in that location. So as we look at this on the right, you see in the picture version, the aerial is the existing Old Mill Road, and you see the existing bridge that goes over I-20. Now that bridge is not large enough or sufficient to be able to become the interchange without being widened or significantly reconstructed. So that existing bridge will not remain in place in the final condition. But what about while the new bridge is being constructed? The plan while the new bridge is being constructed is that the existing Old Mill Road and the existing bridge will remain open. So at all times, even through construction, that Old Mill Road will continue to have access across I-20 to these areas where you currently are able to drive. Then once the new bridge is completed and its construction is finalized, that new location can be opened. And that's the drive that we imagined earlier in the conversation where we drove through both roundabouts on our way up towards the frontage road. Once the new bridge is opened, the old bridge will be closed. That old bridge over I-20 will be removed. And then you see some circle type shapes on either side of where the new ramps are located. Those are cul-de-sacs. And that gives an opportunity for somebody coming down that road to make a turnaround and go back the other direction. And so those cul-de-sacs will effectively be the end of the road. So there will no longer be a bridge where the existing Old Mill is because it will have been relocated. There will be cul-de-sacs on either side that allow people to still access those properties and then turn around at the end of that road. The new ramps that you asked about that are crossing over that existing Old Mill Road, you see those are on the other side of where the cul-de-sacs are, between the cul-de-sacs and I-20. And so once the new bridge is open, and once the cul-de-sacs have been placed in those locations, the ramp construction will be completed, and then access via the new interchange will be opened as well. So the first thing that is likely to be opened is the new bridge. Then these cul-de-sacs will be completed, and then the ramps themselves will be opened up to allow access to I-20. That's roughly the order that we anticipate, even though the design is not complete or final at this point. That's what I would say we anticipate. Hopefully that answers your question, and thank you for clarifying, but it's not going to be a situation where those ramps are on a bridge going over those connections. They will be at grade and built as they're coming up to the new interchange, and the existing Old Mill Road will no longer be in that location because the road will be ended at those cul-de-sacs. Hopefully that's a good explanation for you, and thank you for clarifying that for us.
Thanks, Jonathan. Like we have additional questions here. I understand that the Stanton Springs /278 exit will be reworked. It is really dangerous as it is. So I'm glad that you asked that question, Ms. Jenkins. We can actually go ahead and queue up the 278 end of the 3 projects that we presented. And Kathy, you want to get Jonathan to maybe walk through that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your question. Sure. Jonathan, you can walk through it.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think we were going to queue up the screen so we can take a look at that US 278 side. And then when I'm done talking through this walkthrough, I also want to give Ty Denning, who's one of our design experts, an opportunity just to elaborate on if there's anything else he wants to share from that deeper design perspective about the question. Because the question was safety related, and we want to be sure that we both have opportunities to talk through that. So what I'll start with is one of these imaginary drive-throughs like we were doing a moment ago. And this time we're going to do it at US 278. And we're going to start on the left side of the page. And before we get going, I just want to clarify something as you're looking at this, because it could be confusing. The road that you see here is rotated in a different direction than the other layouts that we've been looking at. So all the other layouts we've looked at, north is pointing up, but because of the shape and the alignment of US 278, it's easier to show this on the screen as it's rotated. So the direction north is kind of towards the top right side of the page. And so when you're looking at 278 and we're talking about traveling north, we're going to be going from left to right. We're going towards the right on the page here. So as we start on the left side of the page here, we're going to start just south of Shire Parkway. And this is going to give us the opportunity to widen from 1 lane in each direction out to 2 lanes, ultimately, in each direction. But you are going to want to look closely at the little circles we talked about earlier with the number of lanes. So as we move towards the right, which is towards the north, you see in that northbound direction, if we're driving towards the interstate, it widens to 2 lanes in that direction. Now the southbound on the other side of the road is still just 1 lane there, and there are some turn lanes in between. So people turning into Shire Parkway or at other parts, you know, they have other places to turn. That creates that space for those turn lanes. We'll continue driving north towards I-20. We'll pass Shire Parkway, we pass a driveway, and then we approach the interstate ramps at I-20 and US 278. In this location, you see that the majority of the work is being done on US 278, and there's only a very small amount that's being done on these interstate ramps, the existing interstate ramps. If you remember a few moments ago when we were talking about what the different colors on the map mean, the dark gray color is where we anticipate there being roadway construction. And so you see the construction really doesn't go very far up most of those ramps. Now the ramp that is at the top left, which is the Eastbound Off Ramp. So if you were coming from Atlanta and getting off in this location, you see that there is some more construction on that ramp. And the reason that that additional construction is there is purely just to add an additional turn lane. So you see the number 3, that just means that there are 3 lanes, and those are going to be turn lanes to be able to choose which direction you want to go as you're coming off that ramp. So there would be plenty of space for people to take a left turn from that ramp onto US 278, which is pointing towards the right once again. So let's continue as if we're going towards the right. As you continue past that ramp, you're going to come to the orange shape. Again, the orange shape is a bridge. And that bridge that you see there is not being reconstructed. That is the existing bridge that is in that location. And for those of you, and I'm sure it's most of you who are familiar with this area, driving across that bridge, you're familiar with, on one side of the road, there's a large area that's not currently being used. There are some stripes that are there, and it's outside the area where you would be driving. And so this bridge was constructed at one point with enough space to be able to accommodate the lanes that we're going to be putting here. So this bridge does not need to be reconstructed. The bridge does not need to be widened. It's the same bridge that's already out there. We're just using that extra space that's not being used right now. As you continue across that bridge, you get to another intersection. These are the ramps from the other direction, so the westbound ramps, both exit ramps and on-ramp. And then you continue further to the north, again to the right, and you see the number of lanes is changing as we go. There's a little 3 if you can't see that, and that's because there's a turn lane in that area between the ramp and then the frontage road we're about to get to. So someone could pull into the right, into that turn lane, make a right, and that blue space that you see in the next intersection, that's right, that blue area right there is the new intersection with the newly proposed frontage road. That frontage road is what is proposed to connect US 278 all the way back across to Old Mill Road. Now, if we continue to the right, which is also to the north, we will continue with the widening of 278. There's another intersection that you get to here, and that's a proposed entrance to the new development that's coming in that area. So that's just providing access to that development. And then as you continue further, you see that those little circles, they go back to a number 1, which means we're now going back from 2 lanes down to 1 lane and tying back into the existing. The last thing that you see right before we tie in is the new location of Willow Springs Road. And you see that there are some improvements to that intersection as it ties in at a little bit safer of an angle. And that's going to make it more conducive to the traffic that will be moving through that area. Now you see the far right side of the page where the construction ends on US 278. The plan is in this layout that's being tied in before we get to those properties where they're developed. I think there's a church there and some other businesses in that location. So that's all tying in just before we get to that area where those properties are located. So that's what I wanted to walk through in terms of a high-level drive through of the area, talking about some of the features that are there. I said at the very beginning of all of that I wanted to give Ty Denning an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the other parts of this question, maybe some more of the detailed explanation, and then maybe touching on some of the safety. So Ty, I'll hand it over to you, and you can round out this question by adding a little bit more for us.
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. So as far as the question about the safety, we would definitely encourage you to leave a comment for us. We would like to know if there is a specific safety concern that you guys have seen historically. Definitely something that we'd like to look into. But by and large, the improvements that are being made to the ramps at I-20 are to address some of the increased traffic that are anticipated. As you can see on that drawing, the eastbound off ramp, which would be, I guess, the top left ramp, is being widened to 3 lanes. We're adding in a double left turn lane there. But in addition to the ramp widening, we are also adding in signals, traditional traffic control signals at both the eastbound and the westbound intersections there. So that in and of itself will help to protect some of those movements. If there are sight distance issues, that will also help mitigate or eliminate some of that, because you will have protected movements on a green arrow or whatever. But by and large, those signals should greatly help some of those safety concerns. You won't necessarily have people flying down US 278 across those intersections. they will be needing to stop at the signals. And I don't know if this has been mentioned specifically, but they're also adding a traffic signal south of there at Shire Parkway. So some of that traffic that is seen around that area will also be a little bit better controlled. I hope I answered that sufficiently for you, but thanks for the question.
Yeah, great stuff, Ty. And Jonathan, thanks also for helping clarify what's going on with 278 and why. We have a question from Jennifer here, Kathy. Are there estimated completion dates for these projects? I don't believe I've seen that anywhere.
Okay, thank you for your question, Jennifer. For the US 278 and frontage road, it should be substantially completed during Q1 of 2024. And the Old Mill Interchange should be substantially completed during Q3 of 2025. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. And Jennifer, I just wanted to remind you that information is available on the US 278 and Old Mill Road improvements website. So you should be able to kind of see what the estimated timeline is going to be on some of those materials. We've got another one in here. The handouts mention these projects are being delivered through the alternative design build delivery method, which provides greater delivery efficiencies and accelerated project schedules. Can you break this down and explain in a little more detail? So Kathy, this is right up your alley here.
Thank you for that question. Yes, design build delivery method definitely enables us to deliver the projects faster. I would like to have Jonathan elaborate a little bit more on this. Thank you.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. So this is a very insightful question, and I certainly understand why you would want to understand how these projects are being constructed and what does that exactly mean when we say it's alternative delivery or we say that it's design build. So design build is one of the different tools, if you may think of it that way, one of the different tools or one of the different ways that Georgia DOT can construct a project. And so what the design build methodology does is when the construction time is nearing, it allows the department to hire on a contractor who then completes the design at the same time. So the design is being completed by the contractor, the final design is being completed by them, and then they can immediately begin constructing and building that design at the same time. So it allows something that would normally be done in sequence to be done more efficiently over a shorter period of time, and it creates that efficiency. Now, I will say that if you are interested in learning more about the design build program at Georgia DOT, in addition to the website that we've talked a lot about today for this specific project, Georgia DOT has a great website for design build, and it talks about all the different projects that are being delivered using the design build methodology. It's got some information on there that will help you learn more about how that's being applied in other places throughout the state. And it's just a way of being able to efficiently and effectively deliver this project under the time frame that we've been talking about here today. So hopefully that gives you a very high level overview of what design build is. It's one of the methods that GDOT can use to construct a project. And hopefully that gives you some additional resources that you can go to for some more reading, some more studying. So thank you for that question. Appreciate you giving the opportunity to talk about that.
Awesome. Thanks for that clarification on that design build alternative delivery method there, Jonathan. Looks like we have another question. Will there be adequate stormwater provisions for the new interchange? So we're talking about stormwater, environmental impacts. Kathy, how do we want to clarify that one?
Thank you for that question. I think Jonathan would be best suited to answer that.
Sure, I would be happy to talk a little bit about the stormwater. So whenever Georgia DOT designs a project, and we've talked about a lot of different elements of what we think about. Where are we going to put the pavement? What kind of impacts are there going to be? Where's the right of way? How do we consider the environment? These are all things that are important to a project, and we can't really talk about all of those important things without talking about the drainage or what happens with stormwater on a project. And so there are very specific analyses that are done to ensure that any water that is coming into the project area is being treated responsibly, that it's being captured, that if it's released from the project area, that it's being done so in a way that it's released at the right pace and in the right locations, that it's treated, that there are no issues with downstream flow where that could be damaging to a property or running through a property in a way that it doesn't. So that analysis has already begun. And before the project is completed, there will be drainage strategies that are identified throughout the entire corridor. Each of these 3 projects that we've talked about today, not just the interchange that was asked about in this location here. And what that's going to do is that's going to responsibly capture any water that's flowing through the project, treat it to ensure that there is no particulates or contamination that's coming from that project area, and then release it responsibly back into the surroundings in a flow that matches very similarly to the way that it was occurring before the project came along. So hopefully that gives a high-level overview of how stormwater is being addressed throughout the design of the process, the project itself. And it's a part of the process that is already begun. We have a good understanding of what's going on out there right now, and that will continue all the way through final design and then be treated responsibly through construction as well. Thank you for your question.
Thanks, Jonathan. I have another question that came in. Will the widening of Highway 278 ensure proper turn lanes and/or deceleration lanes? So, Kathy, we had a little bit of explanation on this earlier. We can definitely get the team to go back through it. It looks like we will have some addition of some potential turning lanes as it relates to Stanton Springs, but how would we like to clarify this one?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, it looks like we will have turn lanes there. I would like to hand this over to Ty Denning to elaborate more. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, we will be ensuring that we do have the correct deceleration lengths for all of these turn lanes. We do have some guidance from GDOT as to what those minimum lengths are. But in addition to that, part of Yop, our traffic engineer, as part of his evaluation, looked at certain areas where maybe you'd see longer lines of traffic, and we have accounted for or lengthened those turn lanes in those areas so that you can adequately hold the cars that may be waiting in those lanes within that lane. But the long and the short answer is yes, we will be ensuring that those lengths are adequate. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for that clarification, Ty, related to the 278 turning lanes and deceleration lanes. So have about 12 minutes left. We're actually going to take y'all back through the virtual meeting room platform for US 278 at Old Mill Road improvements. So you should see that on your screen now. So we're actually at the landing page. So hopefully everybody's been able to get here. Again, you can visit our website on the public outreach portion and easily get to it, or you can just do a simple search of US 278 to Old Mill. So once you get on that landing page, as you can see here, you're going to scroll down to enter the meeting room. So this is the official open house virtual meeting room platform. You're going to see our statewide spokesperson with communications, Natalie Dale. She's got a very informative welcome video that we would encourage everyone to start with to really give you the ground rules and a breakdown for what you're going to see on this page. You can also click on a fact sheet. You can see a combined handout, which is going to be have basic details, a lot of what we've been describing today on the current conditions, what we think the conditions are going to become, and what the improvements are going to be. Definitely look on the right side of the tab, like Phil Copeland was talking about earlier as it relates to interest with property acquisition. But we could just start with Let's start with the 278 widening. So we'll click on that. You just get kind of a general rundown and reminder. And again, you can do this on a laptop, desktop, or you can do it on a mobile device. It's optimized for a phone as well, so don't worry about that. And you see our program manager, Marlo Clowers, for design, build, alternative delivery. We're all shrunken down people on the site, sort of welcoming you in just like it was in person. You see the typical sections there. You see the concept that Jonathan and Ty and Yop have been describing thus far. So just for example, this is the first project on 278. So everything you need to know is in here. Then we'll go to frontage road. Same kind of deal, just reminding you, and that's Kathy Ahmed, who you've seen and heard from in the video and also during some of the responses thus far this evening. And she's walking you through what's happening on frontage road. So you've got the concept displays. It's very easy to click and download these to view anytime. This website will remain live. It just stops accepting comments after June 30th. So that comment period is June 1 to June 30th. So please visit during that time, but it will be available after to go back and review any of these displays and information. You know, probably know the drill at this point, but let's click on the comment station. And that's me. I look really, really small. So this is where we want you to end up going. So this is the way that we hear from you and your voice gets through on the official public record. It's a very simple survey. It'll just take you a few minutes to fill out, and that ensures we document during this period, like we talked about, from June 1 to June 30th, and that will get you the response letter. So about 30 to 40 days after this period is over, we're gonna take all the comments that we've received, analyze everything, and try to get you the best information back to your questions. That letter will also be published on this site. So that'll be something to look out for in the coming months as we respond to your inquiries. And it looks like we got some new questions, so that's awesome. We'll try to get to those. Okay, Kathy, are there projections for how these road alterations are going to benefit the local economy? Bring in how many construction jobs? So how would we like to address that one, just on the impacts to the local economy, Kathy?
Thank you for that question. I'd like to hand that over to Jonathan. It will be bringing jobs to the local economy, but I'd like Jonathan to elaborate more.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks for this question. Certainly understand wanting to ask a question about what this is going to do for the economy. Of course, there's an understanding that with new developments, and that there are multiple new developments occurring in this area, which is what is leading to the need for transportation improvements. Well, with that come the questions about how is that going to impact the economy? How many new jobs? And the team that you have here on the phone here today to talk through these questions about the transportation project, we're focused primarily, I would say, on understanding the traffic side of that question. What kind of demand is there going to be for the traffic coming to any of these new developments? What kind of capacity needs to be provided on these roads? How can we ensure that the new roads, the proposed roads, are operating effectively and safely? There's another side to that question that's really asking about the benefit to the local economy and the construction jobs. And while I think that is something that answer does exist out there somewhere, I don't think that we're necessarily prepared to give precise answers to that on the call here today, just because of the team that we have and what we're focused on with the transportation improvements. Now, I think that this question was entered in anonymously. If you do want to put your name and contact information here, there may be information that we have that's not available at our fingertips on the call. And if that's the case, we can use that information to, or that contact information to let you know what the answer to your question may be. If you do put that into the chat box, I know that you registered as anonymous. Your name will not go to the, to the public thread where other people see it. It'll just be visible to us. So if that is something that you would like us to send over, if we find anything after this call, please feel free to put that information in there. And if we do have that, we'll get it to you. But thank you for that question. I certainly understand why that's important to you.
All right. Thanks for that, Jonathan. So it looks like we don't have any questions coming in right now. Y'all got 5 minutes left. So if you're attending and haven't already submitted a question and are curious about something, please insert that along with your contact information in the chat box here. So just because we have a little bit of time left, if we want to pull back up, let's actually do frontage road. If we could get that one up. That concept. So we'll get that one up, and I'm gonna hit our team here with a question or two. There we go. So we talked a little bit about this, about how it the new Old Mill Road is going to tie in with the signalized intersection, also in allowing normal citizens to drive through, but also servicing the new development. Kathy, could we just kind of walk through how this is going to work in unison with the plans at Old Mill and 278 to be a package for safety and traffic flow?
Yeah, sure. Since we have a little bit more time left, we can walk through it. I think Jonathan will help us walk through this.
I would be happy to do so. And we've already got it pulled up on the screen here. For this discussion, let's start on the slide where we are now. We'll start on the right and we'll work towards the left. So right now we're going to go west. We're going to head in the westerly direction. So we've talked a little bit about the other roadways, but we haven't talked specifically about how this new frontage road is configured. And actually what I'm going to ask if we can do is go up to the very top right of this screen. We have something that's called a typical section. That's just a fancy engineering term for saying how many lanes are going to be out there. And this is just a picture, almost as if you took a slice, like a slice out of a cake. If you took a slice right out of the middle of the road and you were looking right down the road, you see how these lanes will be laid out. And so the frontage road, we've talked about how we want to ensure that there is enough capacity and that we're considering safety. How did we do that along the frontage road? Well, you can see here that on each side of the road, we have 2 lanes. So there's 2 lanes in each direction. In between those 2 lanes, there's a raised median. And then on the far left side of what we're looking at here, you see that there is a sidewalk. And that's not just any sidewalk, it's an extra wide sidewalk that's called a multi-use path. And the reason we call something a multi-use path, or the reason we use that term, is that you can have different kind of users, different kind of people using it. So you can have people who are pedestrians, they're walking. You can have cyclists who are riding their bikes. The sidewalk in and of itself is wide enough that you can have multiple different kinds of people using the sidewalk at the same time. Well, how does that translate into the frontage road that we're looking at on the screen over further to the left? So when we look at that dark gray shape that we see there, you see that there's a light yellow line along the top side of that shape. That's where that multi-use path will go. And so if you're questioning which side of the road is this multi-use path going to be, it is not between I-20 and the frontage road. It is on the other side. So it's on the side where the development is going to be. So on that top side of the page. So you can see that typical section, or that number of lanes that we talked about, is consistent throughout this whole frontage road. And so as we travel towards the west, you've got 2 lanes. As you make that trip, you're passing some driveways. There are breaks in the median, so where the median stops, and it allows people to pull in. They could take a left on a driveway, or they could even make a U-turn and go back the other direction. Very quickly, if we flip to the previous page, you'll see how this layout continues. It continues parallel to I-20. You pass Sewell Road, which is the existing bridge that is out there. And I'll just make a note for anybody listening that there is no work being done on Sewell Road, and the bridge at Sewell Road over I-20 is not being touched at all. No construction. It's not being removed. It's not being touched at all. So we continue to the left, which is west along the frontage road. And if we continue to make our way, we pass some breaks in the median, some potential locations for driveways, and we curve right back around to US 278. And so in summary, this frontage road is going to be a brand new connection that is parallel to I-20, connecting 278 and Old Mill Road, and just providing one more means of access between those two locations and to any properties that are along that frontage road in between. Thanks for the opportunity to talk through that. Kyle, I think I'll hand it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. It looks like we're at 6:30, so we're at the official end of this virtual public meeting. I want to thank everyone that did attend. Also want to thank the subject matter experts that helped us walk through and kept me straight today as it relates to US 278 and Old Mill Road improvements. And just encourage everyone, if you haven't been to the website, please go there. Encourage your friends and family to visit that site and make sure they leave us a comment. There's also additional ways you can do that detailed on the site. There's a project hotline and also an email, or you can do the old school snail mail and mail in some of your feedback. So just want to say thanks again, and until next time, y'all take care.